Charles Leclerc secured another valuable podium finish with the Ferrari team. This was not an outcome that could be taken for granted in the 13th round of the 2025 Formula One World Championship at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in Stavelot, especially considering how the Belgian Grand Prix weekend had started. The initial setup and first configuration of the Ferrari SF25 single-seater was not quite up to the task and did not meet expectations. However, the Ferrari engineers and technicians reacted effectively and promptly, making significant adjustments to the car's setup by moving in the right direction. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc, who once again proved to be outstanding and highly skilled driver behind the wheel, performed brilliantly and did his part by extracting the maximum possible performance from his Ferrari SF25 throughout the race weekend. Having Max Verstappen, the reigning world champion and Red Bull racing driver, closely glued to his rear bumper for virtually the entire duration of the race, is never an easy challenge for any driver. Yet, the Monegasque driver Charles Leclerc kept his composure and mental focus throughout the intense battle, driving at the absolute best of his abilities and capabilities. Although the third-place finish on the podium is not a result that Charles Leclerc prefers or desires in his pursuit of victory, he was nonetheless satisfied and pleased with his overall performance and race management. Recovering a difficult weekend was crucial for the Ferrari team, and nothing better could have happened this afternoon at the historic Spa-Francorchamps circuit, especially since the two McLaren drivers, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, once again proved to be nearly unbeatable in terms of race pace. Charles Leclerc openly admitted that he did not expect such a positive and encouraging outcome after the qualifying sessions, where the time gap to the top three seemed to be quite difficult and challenging to close. The key factor behind this performance turnaround was the aerodynamic strategy adopted by the Ferrari team. A slightly lower aerodynamic downforce load compared to rival teams was a calculated risk that eventually paid off, especially when taking into consideration the ever-changing and variable weather conditions, which involved periods of rain and a progressively drying racetrack. When the track surface was still wet and slippery, Max Verstappen's Red Bull RB21 was definitely quicker and showed stronger pace, but Charles Leclerc managed to hold his position with great skill and determination. Only when switching to slick dry tires did the Ferrari SF25 gain a noticeable advantage, allowing the Monegasque driver to maintain a safe margin and buffer throughout the remainder of the race distance. The gap between the two drivers remained surprisingly stable and consistent, with the Dutchman closing in during cornering phases, but never finding the decisive opportunity or straight-line speed advantage to attempt a successful overtaking maneuver on the straights. Charles Leclerc emphasized that the podium finish at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit was the result of a collective team-wide effort. Behind the aerodynamic upgrade package brought to the Belgian Grand Prix, there is an enormous and tireless commitment from the entire Ferrari team based in Maranello, who have worked relentlessly and continuously to improve the performance and reliability of the SF25 car. Despite the encouraging and positive result, the driver is fully aware that this is not enough to achieve all their goals. The McLaren team remains a key benchmark in terms of performance, and Ferrari will have to continue to push hard and develop aggressively in order to further reduce the performance gap in the upcoming races, starting with the Hungarian Grand Prix. The race itself was heavily influenced and affected by intermittent rain showers, which obviously complicated strategic decisions and tire choices. Charles Leclerc admitted that at the beginning of the race it would have been quite unlikely to aim for a podium finish if the race had been entirely dry, considering the difficulties encountered in making the tires work efficiently with the reduced aerodynamic downforce. The setup designed and chosen for qualifying was aimed at not pushing the limits too far under dry conditions in order to be better prepared and more effective in managing the first part of the race under mixed and changing weather conditions. The delayed race start and the prolonged phase on the wet track required very careful and precise management, as well as constant communication and close collaboration between the drivers and their teams concerning which tires to fit and the exact right moment to make the switch. The Ferrari driver explained how this phase is always a delicate balancing act between maintaining safety on track and aggressively searching for the maximum competitive advantage. Fortunately, caution and prudence paid off today thanks to a well-thought-out and carefully executed race strategy. Charles Leclerc managed to extract the maximum from his Ferrari SF25, which demonstrated performance levels comparable to those of Max Verstappen's Red Bull Racing RB21, at least during the race. The Monegasque's ability to qualify third on Saturday played a critical role, as he capitalized on hesitation from the reigning world champion. Although Charles Leclerc initially struggled with tire degradation in wet conditions, this time the performance drop-off appeared to stem more from Ferrari's low downforce setup than the team's traditional wet weather shortcomings. Once the circuit dried, Charles Leclerc's pace on slick tires was competitive with the McLaren's, albeit aided by cold temperatures and minimal tire wear. Seven-time Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton also benefited from a strategic setup change. The Ferrari driver switched to a higher downforce rear wing before the race start, allowing him to carve through the field with stronger aerodynamic grip. He gained additional positions by perfectly timing his switch to slick tires, making full use of his adjusted setup. From a broader perspective, Spa validated the effectiveness of Ferrari's newly introduced rear suspension. Team principal Frédéric Vasseur remarked that some upgrades yield instant results, while others require more time to fine-tune and understand, especially in terms of brake interaction, ride height, and overall mechanical balance. Even between the sprint race and the Grand Prix, Ferrari appeared to make incremental progress by adjusting the car setup based on the data collected. Looking ahead, the Hungarian Grand Prix in Budapest, where rear grip is even more critical, will provide a clearer test of the new suspension's capabilities. However, like Spa, the Hungaroring and the following circuit in Zandvoort are both dominated by medium-speed corners. These types of corners continue to be McLaren's strongest domain, reinforcing the notion that Ferrari's best chances lie on circuits better suited to their SF25, such as Monza. The 2025 Belgian Grand Prix represents an important and positive signal for the entire Ferrari team based in Maranello. This is the opinion expressed by Ferrari team principal Frédéric Vasseur at the end of the race. Indeed, things went in the right direction because Ferrari demonstrated a new level of capability related to the compromise it can achieve between speed and reliability. The SF25 has proven to be a more competitive car with a slight overall improvement, even under variable and tricky weather conditions that have historically been very challenging and difficult for the team. The podium secured by Charles Leclerc is not only a source of pride for the talented driver, but also a clear testament that the hard work, development, and technical improvements carried out in recent months have been very effective. However, the prancing horse knows full well that it must achieve an additional step forward to be truly competitive for victories. The goal for the next race in Budapest is quite clear and well-defined: to optimize the performance of the Ferrari SF25 through detailed data analysis, where the new suspension system and the recent floor update can work even more effectively and harmoniously together.